100 days, Minecraft War, and it's hardcore. This is a game mode I made with my friends, and it's all about war and battling it out. And what you're about to watch is completely unscripted. I've just managed to make it feel like a story. And this is my story, from start to finish. 3 teams of 10 are being taken to an undisclosed location. And once the helicopter lands, we're heading to war. And the game officially begins. If you guys go on to enjoy this adventure, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any more. And also, if you want this map, it's on my patrons with all the headquarters and the gear spawned in for you so you can play this with friends. And the mods can be found on my Discord. But the war has now officially started. This is the 10 of us. We're all on the same team and we're all pushed into a cage. And randomly ended up here together. There are 2 other teams out there in the wild getting ready to take us on. But we're getting ready to take them on. There are 2 enemies in this world. You've got the Spec Ops crew. And you've got the Spetsnaz. The only way we'll know the difference between these enemies is the armor they're wearing. That's why we've named them after their armor. And speaking about the enemies, the Spec Ops crew, they had found us. They were in the Lost City to the east, just watching us in our headquarters. It was time to introduce ourselves. I sent 3 players east, while I took myself and 2 others north. These players were surrounded. If we could do it right, they were trapped into the corner, and we could hopefully pincer them in. We went through the city, with the job of the 2 units meeting back up. This was the last location that we had spotted them in. We were taking it slow. But sadly, we were a little bit too slow. And the enemies had slipped through the net, and they were gone. Even though we didn't get them, we showed that we'll come for you, and we'll use our tactics as best as we can. So it was back to base for us. And let me introduce you to our base. Our base is referred to as a headquarters. There are 3 of these on the map, and each team currently lives at 1. Like I said, this is hardcore, so when you die, you're out of the game and you're not coming back. That's for certain. But these headquarters are supply lines. This is where you can grab loot, like ammo and building blocks, and it's a place where you can also get vehicles, if you build the proper infrastructure to support that. Like a runway for a plane, or a helicopter landing pad for a helicopter. Each headquarters can have 4 vehicles owned to it at one time. But the main reason why these headquarters are the most important thing for you to keep, or to hold at least one, is because these can give you reinforcements. If players sadly die on your team, and your numbers are dwindling, well, if you own a headquarters, more players may join you. But right now, luckily, there's 10 of us. And 10 is the max amount of players you can have on your team. So with our healthy team, we better get to work. And first things first, we have to start building the infrastructure for our base. We need to defend this headquarters because on the inside of every HQ, there's a nuclear bomb that you must defend from your enemies. How do you set off this nuclear bomb? Well, that's easy. Well, if you can find it. There's a detonator in one of the obsidian chests surrounding the nuclear bomb. And that's the same in every HQ. And the only thing that's different with HQs is that every detonator is hidden differently. If this base goes boom, it isn't over. You can still survive and you can still win the game. You just won't have reinforcements until you take another HQ. But you really don't want to be around when this thing blows up. Now our headquarters location had been discovered, but we still hadn't found any of the other teams. With our runway now built, it was now time to get the planes in the sky and find the enemy headquarters. Flying Boy was in one plane, while I was in the other. We were sending 2 planes at the same time, so that we could find the bases as quick as possible, because time is against us. I instructed Flying Boy to go east, while I bank left and head to the south. That way we'll cover as much ground as quick as possible. Flying to the world, I could see that there was a ton of lost cities. Plenty of places to hide if our headquarters is soon destroyed. But flying over one, I spotted one of the first headquarters. One base had been found. There was one more out there. And getting closer and doing more recon with this base I just found, I noticed that it wasn't the enemies who found us. It was the others. And it looked like they were removing a hillside. Probably because it was too dangerous to have next to their base. It was looking right over, I would say. It wasn't until I got to the opposite side of the map that the final headquarters had came into view. These were the players who did find us, and they had a mega base. They were blessed with a natural defensive position. I dropped a bomb on their runway, hoping that it would slow their plane process down, because for a plane to spawn in, you have to have a working runway. Now, we had all the bases and all the information we needed. It was now time to descend and head home, decompile all the information and weigh up our options. We weighed up our options, and a small unit of us were heading towards the first base we'd found, the team that seemed to have been removing a hill. There are plenty of reasons why we're choosing to target this faction specifically, but mainly, their base doesn't seem as hard to attack, and also, they're the closest people to us. We were slowly moving into their base, and they were still removing that goddamn hill, knowing that they were on the opposite side of the headquarters. We were moving along the riverbank that was providing natural cover. We knew that if not more than half the team were out removing that hill across the opposite side, that we could potentially seize this base and take it for ours. But we had a better plan in mind. We wanted to get inside the base and find the detonator, and then hopefully we could blackmail this team to do our bidding for us. You know, maybe they could go and attack the other team, and in return, their base wouldn't get blown up, and they can get their base back. If they keep to their end of the bargain. We got to the end of the bank, where there was no longer any cover. So we rushed towards the base. Surprise was our biggest advantage here. We got into the base, and to our surprise, there was no one here. It was completely empty. They were all outside. And with absolute pot luck, the first chest I opened had the detonator inside it. We all rushed out of the base to get to a better position so that I could get into a Discord call with the enemy group of players here and tell them the bad news. They were shocked that we had the detonator. I think they were more shocked that they got attacked or infiltrated so soon. I told them what I wanted, that we wanted them, to go and attack the other players in the west. And that if they kept up their end of the bargain, then they weakened their defenses. They didn't have to win, they just had to weaken them down. We would give back the detonator and let them own this headquarters again. They agreed to the deal, but in fairness, they had no choice. It was perfect. It was now time to herd them across the country to make sure that they kept up their end of the bargain. We'd actually have to see it. We couldn't just trust their word for it. Forcing players into war when they're not ready, and then herding them across the country, it's tricky business. Their members kept getting lost, so we would lie them down and make them wait until the others would group up. But we learnt some valuable information while we were wasting time here. We found out that Thommers, yeah, you see him lying down there? Yeah, he's the leader of this operation. It's important to know these things, because if you can take out who's calling the shots when it comes to war, you destroy their communication. It's nice to know them. Information can be lethal when you know it. Days rolled on by, and we were taking them across. This was taking longer than we thought. Until finally, the enemy headquarters that even our team feared came into view. This team, like I said, they were blessed with a wonderful headquarters spawn. Yes, I know our base is quite well blessed as well, but theirs is even better. So getting another team to do our bidding for us will hopefully be a huge help. We don't have to waste resources, and most importantly, we won't lose any lives. We're not expecting this team to take them out. We just want them to do damage to them. That's what we want. Damage. If they do that, they'll get their headquarters back. The sun was setting, and Tommers' team was waiting till night to start the attack. We were all watching in the distance. They headed in for battle. The tactic of waiting for night wasn't really worth it, because the enemy saw them coming that day. One of Tommers' team members died, and instantly they started running away, and they abandoned the fight. We gave them a chance, they didn't even put up a fight. Now it's time to head back to base and show them what happens when they don't keep up their end of the bargain. We resupplied, and we quickly got a big group of players together, this time more than last time. 2 players were staying at the base, while Flying Boy was getting into the plane. He was on standby, ready to bombard when I give the call. The journey across to Tommers' headquarters did come with issues. We had one player who was severely lagging. His computer couldn't handle the mod pack, so I knew sending him into this battle was most likely sending him to his death. So I ordered him to safely make his way back to base by himself. He agreed, but instead of going back to base, he went into the Lost City to hold up there to hopefully fix his mod pack, while the rest of us kept moving. But now I recognized the Lost Cities, and we were getting very close to the base. The plan was to show no mercy, to take them out and drive them out of the base and take the headquarters for us. Having 2 headquarters would allow us to have 8 vehicles, and also a backup if one gets destroyed. We're in position, and it's now time to start the attack. Drive them out. But there was no mercy. All the players that were here, we annihilated. A few Spetsnaz players managed to escape into the forest, including Tommers, their leader. But it didn't matter. We now had the headquarters. But the victory, it was short-lived, and we had a huge problem. Our base was under attack by the Spec Ops crew. I ordered Flying Boy to get airborne, to lay as much covering fire, and to stop the team from getting inside our walls. If they get inside there, it's game over. I ordered the 2 players who are holding down the fort to do their best to keep them at bay. One of the players on our team did have a light machine gun, which is perfect for holding down an area like that. Meanwhile, we were charging across the country, trying to get home as quick as possible, hearing everything that was unfolding. Flying Boy was desperately on the enemies, but sadly, he was shot out of the sky and he fell to his death. It was over for him, and he was the first death of our squadron. Not only that, we also lost MZO inside the base. And this is when Lofi decided to abandon. The base was lost, and the enemies now owned it. We were finally closing in on the base, but I think we all knew it was just a little too late. There are now only 2 headquarters on the map, and as it stands, we are now baseless. No headquarters to our name, because until we put this detonator back in the other headquarters that we took it from, we don't own it. So now we can no longer get supplies, and we can't get reinforcements. We need to play this careful. But we had one thing going in our favor. The momentum from the enemy team was now surely lost, because the enemy team detonated our headquarters before they were out of the explosive range, and some of their members were wiped out, and I'm sure now they're heading back to headquarters to replace those members they just lost. With the one player who managed to escape the base who was defending, he needed to now group up with us. So we were in a forest, and we decided to fortify here and hold down until he would meet up with us. Luckily, General Guacamole, the guy who was lagging with his mod pack, he didn't make it back to base. Like I said, he went into the Lost City and held up there. Really a blessing in disguise, but his blessing didn't last long, because an enemy found him and took him out. And I could see this on replay mod, and now I can see that this took place only a couple of 100 blocks away, but right now we needed to stay hidden. Last thing we need are a bunch of enemies coming towards us, knowing that we have no headquarters. They'll want us so bad. Now knowing we had no headquarters, we were taking things slow. Time had passed and the enemies could have regrouped, and the headquarters down below could be more fortified now. Or even the enemies that just blew up our base could be there too, steamrolling over the map. We got closer, and things seemed quiet, but with the hardcore aspect, I feel like everything moves a lot slower. You've got to move a lot slower. Move too fast, you die. But you move too slow, you go nowhere. That's when we could see enemies. Those were the enemies that probably escaped the attack that we first did. One of them didn't even have time to grab supplies when we did the attack. Knowing that they were on the outside, and confident that the other enemy team weren't here, they're the ones we fear at the moment, we knew that we could take this base. And we needed to get this base operational as fast as possible, because another attack is imminent. This is Minecraft War after all. The whole objective is to slaughter entire team. Straight away, being inside this base, we knew if we get attacked in this base, it's going to be a hard one to hold. The positioning of it is just dreadful. To the west, you've got forest. You've got a wide open area to the other side. That would be alright, but you're just surrounded by forest. So many places to hide. By the time you know you're getting attacked, they're going to be already at your walls. But we should just count our lucky stars and be happy that we even own a headquarters at this time. And that's right, we own it. Because after clearing the whole entire base, I put the detonator back inside the chest. That means that we can't take it out now, and we own the base and can use the supplies. Let's just hope we can hold this one. Tomer's team, we noticed, were out in the forest to the west. We didn't see them as much of a threat, but we didn't want them getting close to test that. So every so often, with them being in the trees, I would send a warning shot with the sniper, telling them that we see you and you're not sneaking up on us. Barry was getting to work on a tank shed. The idea of having a tank felt quite good with the squad. Could be used to defend the base if an attack happens. But it wasn't long until the enemies were back. These were the enemies on the hill, which I'm going to call these guys the Spec Ops crew, because that's the armor that they're wearing. Spec Ops armor. You can spot it from a mile away. But they'd sent a plane in to keep up the pressure. I must admit, their tactics were genius, because the plane is quite deadly when he knows how to drop bombs. I was in the AA gun trying to do as much damage as I could to the plane, but let's just say these AA guns, they're not fantastic. And on one of the bombing trips around, I thought it would be my last life. Let's take a look at this. That bomb was nearly a direct hit. That could have been fatal. Even with the plane managing to be a nuisance and keeping us suppressed, Barry was still able to make a tank shed, and we now had a tank in our arsenal. The plan was to drive this outside, get it on an adjacent hill nearby, and see if we can hit the plane with one of the tank shells. Sounds easy, but you gotta get lucky. But if it does hit, it will destroy the vehicle instantly. I was waiting for the best moment to fire my shots. And I missed every single one. The tank was now out of tank shells. But that whole night we were focused on the plane, trying to take it out of the sky. But it was dodging and weaving every single shot from our AA guns. But we were so focused on the plane that we realized that that was the job. It was a distraction. The enemies had pushed out of the forest. It was the Spec Ops crew. Like I said, the Spec Ops crew, they're the people that live on the hill. They're the people we fear. And now they're here to take away another base from us. They're not giving us any breathing room whatsoever. And I feel like we're constantly playing catch up now at this point. I abandoned the tank outside, but there was no ammo inside it, so they couldn't do anything with it. They were fortifying on the hill where the tank was though. Which wasn't a problem. But now, we had a plane, and we had players to worry about. The plane wasn't killing anyone before. But now that we have to look at two things at once, and especially once the enemy starts splitting up, this plane is going to become a nuisance. I knew we had to put up some aggression quick. So Barry and myself swapped weapons. Picking up the sniper, I started laying down the fire. If I can get a hit on one of these players, it'll do damage. And it might make them think twice before coming closer. Speaking about coming closer, Sorrow had done a sneaky loop around the back of us and was trying to destroy our tank shed so that we could get no more tanks. He was successful, but it was a one-way ticket for him. He was taken out within minutes. When we took out Sorrow, that seemed to have angered the plane. I wonder if Sorrow was their leader, because after taking out Sorrow, we learned to regret it. Our members started dropping like flies. And within minutes, we lost Marcus. He was pummeled by a sniper. And to make it worse, then Monta was lasered by the enemy aircraft. We had just lost two great players, and we knew something drastically needed to happen. We had to abandon the base, and we needed to do some damage to the enemy team. So I gave them 30 seconds and told them, take as much as you can, and we're leaving in 30. If we leave the base, we'll have no headquarters. We'll have no more reinforcements. But we'll have one advantage. We can keep on the move. The enemies won't be able to find us. We can hopefully cause some damage to them. That was our goal. We left the west side, going under the trees hoping that the plane wouldn't spot us. But it didn't matter anyway, because an enemy was chasing behind. But quickly, he was taken care of. Now knowing the enemies are at our base, or what was our base, probably blown up by now, we were charging across to their base. We knew we probably wouldn't be able to attack it. Judging by the numbers that were attacking us, it looked like they had 5 players there and 5 players at their base. But the goal right now was to motivate the team and cause damage, cause casualties on their side. While moving, we were lucky enough to stumble across 2 new recruits who had just come onto the server just as we lost our headquarters. So these guys were allowed to keep playing. So we now had 2 players who are replacing Marcus and Monta. Marcus and Monta will be missed. I'm just hoping we can do them proud. I love how every new player that comes into our group has a skill. Like Barry, being able to build so well. And Lofi, he's a great base defender. But we didn't have time to chit chat and meet the new people, because we were in an operation, and it was called Operation Ghost. I just made that up now. But it was to take out the enemies without them even able to see us. Or at least when that person dies. They probably will see us eventually. We were on the hill, looking over the enemy headquarters. This was the closest we'd been so far. And we were right. There were a lot of them home. We saw one person standing still, and we called the order. 3, 2, 1. Taking him out instantly. With every shot we took, we wanted to move, change position, so they'll never guess where we're coming from. That was one player taken out. They still own their headquarters, so they can still get reinforcement. That didn't matter. But the problem was, with that shot, they had a quick reaction helicopter, and that was airborne. It managed to catch up with us. It was easily able to. It's a helicopter. It was right above us. I ordered the team to get underground as soon as possible. We had just lost a new recruit we just gained to one shot of that thing. It just shows you how brutal this game mode is. The guy had just spawned in and he's already gone. But we all knew what we were getting ourselves into. We wanted to win, but we knew that might not be possible. But we all agreed we wanted to try and give it our best shot and be a nuisance to the enemy team. After a while of being underground, we emerged back onto the surface. The helicopter was no longer here, and there were no players in sight. We began moving to a new position. This time we wanted to come in from the opposite side and attack there. Our goal was to try and pick as many off on the walls. We were in our new position, and we were scoping it out. This time we weren't fortunate enough to have any of the players standing still. Those are the easiest targets. Much easier to hit a target that's standing still than moving, especially in Minecraft. But we were tracking the players around, trying to line up who's the best one to go for. I could also see a player on the hill that we were just at. That's why we wanted to keep moving. We didn't want to be predictable. I could see he was waiting on the hill waiting for us to come back. But we were completely somewhere else. We knew now, if we took a shot, we'd need to move position faster. Because that helicopter, it'll catch us faster this time. Everyone in the base was on high alert, and there were no players standing still anymore. The next target's going to be a moving one. We need to wait for the best moment and take our shot. It's a waiting game. Took a few more shots than we expected, but it was successful. We had pummeled IGN Nick, who had taken out Marcus. Revenge. But then I saw to my left. There were players on the building. How did they not spot us? There were scouts on the outside. With them not keeping a lookout, they just let one of their team members die, when they could have easily just taken us out. But we didn't have time to shoot at them because we knew the helicopter would now be getting airborne. And to make it worse, it wasn't just a helicopter this time. There was a plane searching for us. We knew what we had to do. Get underground before that helicopter gets us. We dug for what seems like an eternity underground, trying to gain some space and pop up somewhere new. But I feel like when you're digging, you kind of lose sense of how far you've actually dug. But we emerged onto the surface finally, thinking we were miles away from the action, where in reality, we're at the Lost City, where the enemies were standing on a building. I couldn't get down the ladder. I needed to find another escape. And at this point, the group was in chaos. It was every man for themselves. Get out of there. Stay alive. We'll regroup later. With the helicopter, I knew what to do. Get underground. I managed to meet up with Jack underground. But the others, they were off fending for themselves. We were all split up. All nervous that the enemies might be closing in on our tunnels. If that happened, it'd be game over. We finally emerged again onto the surface. This time we knew we weren't that far away from the base, but our goal wasn't to go back. It was now time to get out of here and regroup. We'd managed to take out 2 of them, but they had sadly managed to take out one of our guys too. With the events that just occurred and the shock of finding that many enemies in a helicopter and a plane coming towards you on a building, Bravocat just went into shock, and instead of running, he hid. And he hid in the Lost City. And they expected people to be there. So sadly, he didn't stand a chance, and there was no way we were going to be able to go back for him. So he was killed. The 2 new recruits that we just got recently, they were gone. And now, we were down to only 5 members. 5 people alive, no reinforcements. And as we're aware, there's only 1 headquarters on the map, and it's heavily guarded. Barry finally met up with me and Jack. And 2 other players were on the run, but at least they were together. The server was beginning to shut down for the night. We decided we'd hold up here, and we'd talk tactics on what we want to do. The next day rolled on by, and in this session we were slightly a bit calmer from the events that just happened. We decided to keep pushing away from the enemy base. We didn't want to go back. We had caused some damage, but we'd gained no ground, even though that wasn't even the objective anyway. But I think all of us were slightly hoping in our head that hopefully when we went to the base an opportunity would arise and we'd be able to enter the base and take them out. But no opportunity happened. It's almost like the enemies were ready for it, and they stomped us out. Now the Spec Up crew, they were miles ahead, and they were the most dominant force on the server. Barry, Jack and myself were heading east. We wanted to get to the opposite side of the map, where our base was originally. And then the other 2 players who were by themselves were trying to make their way over, but from a different direction. That's when we could see our original headquarters in the distance. A reminder of what we lost and the people that we lost. That zone is uninhabitable now. You walk inside there, you'll get radiation sickness and die within minutes. You can't go anywhere near it. If any supplies did survive inside, how would you even get in there? We were heading upstream, towards Tomer's headquarters, the base we just abandoned a few moments ago, to see if the enemies blew it up or left it. If that headquarters is still alive, it gives us a fighting chance to try again. And to my surprise, the headquarters was still there. And there were players inside, which at first we assumed that this was the Spec Ops team, but actually, looking closer, it was Tomer's team. In the chaos when we abandoned that headquarters, the Spec Ops crew must have chased us, instead of actually blowing up the base itself, and Tomer's team seized the opportunity and captured the empty base. And now, they've got full reinforcements, and we don't. If we're going to take this base, we need to be smart. There's only very few of us now. The 3 of us were looking for a vantage point that would look nicely onto the headquarters when we found the hill. There was a good distance between us and the base. We had a plan. And this was it. Our current objective right now is not to attack the base head on, but to try and break down their team. We had been successful in the last base, moving from location to location, taking out targets. But this time it isn't any target that we're trying to take out. We've encountered this team. We know who leads them, and that's Thomas. He is their guide. Our target is to attempt to take him out, disrupt the team, then attack. We staked the base out for days, looking for Thomas to come onto the walls. When he finally did, we were just waiting for the perfect opportunity. This is Minecraft. We're also on a server, and we're attempting to fire a gun at this range. It's not gonna be accurate, but all we need is 2 shots to land. Thomas was out building an external wall on our side. We just had to hit our shot. We were unsuccessful. He dodged the bullets, so we went back into cover. They didn't know what direction the shots came from, so our location was still hidden. We had another opportunity where Thomas was standing still. We attempted again. But still we failed. This time, they were ready for it, and they knew where the shots came from. The second I saw Thomas bring out an RPG, it was time to move. Rotate position, pop up somewhere new. I think these sniper shots are made harder because of the pressure that we're under. We know no help is coming until we gain a headquarters. And the longer we have no headquarters, our supplies will go low as the days go on. While Barry was on top of a hill, keeping an eye out. This time, we moved in by the birch forest. He was vital because we couldn't see the whole base this time. So if anyone comes outside, he'll let us know. That way, we have a window of time before we know an enemy will be rushing upon us. We used the bank as cover, like earlier in the episode. Our whole team was increasingly getting nervous as time went on, because now they had a helicopter landing pad, and soon the admins will give them a helicopter. If that happens, and they use it on us, it's gonna be game over, and we'll probably have to go in hiding for a very long time. The enemy team, now knowing that Thomas was the target of this attack, he was nowhere to be seen, so we decided that we'd shoot the first person we saw. It was unsuccessful, and we missed our first shot. We turned around, and we headed back to Barry. We had failed. But we had one final idea. It'll be all over for us, and it would put our team in jeopardy. But desperate times come for desperate measures. The helicopter landing pad was incredibly close to the tree line, which we had now managed to loop around and were on top of. The plan was, jump inside the walls and get in the helicopter, fly that thing and bombard the enemy team. As leader, and this could be a sacrifice, I decided to put myself forward for morale and for the group. If I die on, I know these guys will fight. I'm not gonna lie, my hands were incredibly shaky. The hardcore aspect really adds a lot, but with the nerves I was ready to go. I had to do this. It was our only hope. Let's do this. The helicopter, it wouldn't take off. It had no fuel and it had no ammo. It wasn't ready yet. I was a sitting duck and I didn't know what to do. Thomas fired an RPG at me, exposing himself. And Jack took the opportunity to take him out. With Thomas gone, and me realizing this, we knew that team would be in chaos, so we took the opportunity to attack. It's now or never. If we die, we go out fighting. We had successfully taken the base. We'd cleared it. All the enemies on Tomer's team were dead and out of the game. There were now only 2 teams remaining. Ourselves, obviously, and the Spec Ops team, who have been a dominant force and an organized bunch. There was one problem. We couldn't find the detonator. It wasn't in the chest that I put it in originally. And moved it, or worse, someone had taken it, and it's on them. All of us couldn't help but think this was a trap. So I took the call. Even though we just spent so long working to get this, I told him to abandon it and head back to the hill that overlooks it. The base is about to explode. It shouldn't kill us here. Before we can move into that base, we need to make sure that the detonator is there. So Barry decided he would go inside and risk it for the team and search for the detonator. Just as soon as Barry said he found the detonator, a plane was circling in the sky. Spec Ops team were here before we could even get a chance to get in. Every time we gain ground, we lose it. They're always one step ahead. This time, knowing the AA guns are absolutely useless, I decided to use the anti-tank guns to try and take out the plane. But they don't aim far enough into the sky. No matter what happens here, I do not want this plane to take out more of my men and my players. It's devastating and it would destroy morale. We had taken over the HQ. It's now a ticking time bomb. We now knew with the plane here, it wouldn't be long before foot soldiers are on the ground. We had to hold off until our reinforcements came. And then we decided we're going to give it hell and go out fighting. I spotted the enemy sniper in the tree line. Before I could snipe him, he sniped me, bringing me down to 2.5 hearts. That's how strong the snipers are. I was on full health. And that's how much it brought me down by. This plane needed to be taken care of. The foot soldiers are here. And we know exactly what that means. But we still have no reinforcement. With the plane and the men on the ground, we were being completely overrun. We couldn't even settle in. We had received the reinforcements that we needed, and they were inside the HQ gearing up for one final fight. I don't envy the situation that new recruits have been put into. It's a lot to be spawned into. I was just getting sick of this plane, and it needed to go. So I had one idea. I asked Lofi for the RPG. This thing's used for taking out tanks. But why can't we direct it onto planes? The plane was now down. The RPG had struck the wing, and he was spiraling out of control. But our team was spiraling worse. We knew it was over for us. This base wouldn't last long. But no one wanted to die here. If we're gonna die, it's gonna be on our terms and on their ground. Taking out as many of them with us. We had all the recruits that we were gonna get. We didn't have enough time to wait for more. We had a tank, but that sadly couldn't be driven over to the enemy base. We didn't have the road and the infrastructure to drive it, and you can't place it. And in the rules, you're not allowed to break them and place them back down. So I drove it out quickly before we abandoned the base, and I let loose at the enemies on the tree line. We then rushed out of the base, abandoning it with the plan to rush towards the enemy Spec Ops base. No stops. Go in and cause as much damage as possible. If they destroy our headquarters, we'll hopefully destroy theirs. Then, it'll probably be guerrilla warfare from there on out. And everyone was eerily calm while running across the country. The base was in sight, and this was our final stand. There was a pillar box right at the enemy entrance, so I decided to make my own entrance. This was my final moment.
Good.
I'm lagging again.
That should be good, yes.
On the left, on the left! Check up above as well. Come on, spread out, spread out. We gotta get out over.
Yep, spreading out, spreading out.
Guy over there. One down, one down. Another one here.
One below you, one right below you, Ryan.
Oh, I'm dead.
Oh god.
No.
I was taken out, and not long after, Jack was gone too, followed by Barry. And the rest dropped off like flies. We were unsuccessful, but I can't help but think we were always on the back end, always playing catch up. Next time we need to be smarter. We didn't win this war, but maybe we'll win the next. And this gives me more motivation to do so.